Hey guys, so I'm making this video review for Ethan over at EthansTarot. I've had a few readings done by Ethan, and I'm not someone that usually is a consistent booker with readers. I actually have only been read by other people a few times. I don't really trust other people's intentions, or sometimes I just don't vibe with them. So I've usually only booked once or maybe twice max, and didn't continuously go. I just felt like I didn't want so many people's energies reading into mine. But with Ethan, I booked, I think 3 or 4 readings now. And the first reading I had with him is what really made me want to continue with him, because I see that he has a lot of talent. So the first reading was a love reading. I had actually just gotten out of a relationship. I moved my whole life to somewhere else. And in that reading, I just kind of wanted to see really what my blockages were. But he actually ended up predicting the relationship that I'm in now. This was back in August of 2020. I had this reading with him, and he had predicted that I would meet someone who isn't, I guess, my normal type. If my type is psychos who are narcissistic, then I guess I definitely didn't want to keep going for that. There were also other things he had mentioned about, my trauma as a child, and I had to work on that, and that kind of was blocking me from a lot of different things. I have done a lot of work since then, and he also did mention in that reading that when I met the person that I'm meant to be with, I would just know. And things did happen, with my boyfriend now, and we did meet over Instagram, and we talked for a few months before we actually met, because we don't live close to each other. He actually lives in Pennsylvania and I live in New York. We're only about 3 hours away, but it is long distance, and how we met was really interesting. And just leading up to everything, he's definitely, I guess, what you wouldn't consider my type, meaning has nothing to do with being physically attractive or anything like that. It had everything to do with me going for unavailable, emotionally men, and it just never worked out. So my boyfriend now is the exact opposite of anyone I've ever been with. So that's a plus. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Ethan did predict that. I did another reading with him that had to do, it was a mediumship reading. I think that was my most recent reading with him. And I asked him to connect to my grandmother. I had lost my grandmother in 2015. And that was a hard loss, because she pretty much raised me growing up, and I was pretty close with her. And even though me and Ethan are friends, there are things, he just doesn't know about my life. And I guess that's the, thing with having friends online. So, I had mentioned my grandmother to him before, but nothing in detail or about her character or anything like that. And he picked up on her energy 100%. There were things that he had said that he wouldn't have known, like her relationship with her mother was really bad, and my grandmother used to say that all the time, how much she despised her mother. But when her mother had gotten sick with cancer, my grandmother has 2 other siblings, so it's funny how it worked out that even though my grandmother and her mother had a terrible relationship, my grandmother was the one to take care of her. But she always talked about that, and how much she couldn't stand her mother, how she still thought her mother was weak, and all these other things. So when he had picked up on that energy about my grandmother's regrets and saying that she did not have a good relationship with her mom, especially back in the day, women who were depressed or had postpartum, they did not really talk about it. There wasn't really anything they could do. Now, my grandmother was born in 1940, so definitely during that time period, that was taboo. So he really picked up on that. He did say that towards the end of my reading that my grandmother like blew me a kiss and waved, and that made me tear up because there is a picture that is my favorite picture of my grandmother from my Sweet 16, and she is waving in the picture, and there are times where she would blow kisses to us and stuff, so I just knew he was connected directly to my grandmother. Also, with that reading, he had talked about how my grandmother had a lot of regrets, like spiritually, and she just doesn't want me to have like the same regrets. So she said to him that the path that I'm on now is good for me, and she just wants me to stay on that path. And actually, for a few days, maybe a week, during the time that he was giving me the reading, I was actually pretty depressed. I do struggle with my own mental illness, and he had said that my grandmother just doesn't want me to be so sad, and she's always with me, and she's been trying to cheer me up. So that also cheered me up too, because I do dream about her sometimes, but it has been a while since the last time I dreamt about her, and I always wonder if she's around me. I do, when I'm going through things, I often think about her and wish that I could have her advice again. She was like the only real like stable adult in my life, so to lose her was a pretty big deal. And I often think also, like, I wish that she could be around to see where I'm at in my life now and how I'm doing. So that reading was definitely really comforting and needed. There is a lot of things that Ethan has picked up on. I think people often mistake his readings for like the present time, and sometimes the energy he picks up on, or just something he's picking up in the cards, like, it doesn't necessarily mean it's like the present time. It could be something that happens at some point, or because our future isn't really set in stone, there's multiple roads to, your fate, I guess. So you can always change those things. So if something seems negative or not really what you want to hear, that could just necessarily be like, it's not necessarily like set in stone. It could be changed. It could be a warning that if you keep doing what you're doing now, this could happen. So I definitely am going to keep booking with Ethan. I think he's a fantastic reader. He does have some doubts about himself, but I do tell him that he definitely has a gift, and to keep on going with that gift. And I don't really just say that freely, because, social media has brought up a whole bunch of people with gifts, or, everybody wants to kind of jump on that train. And I do think that we all have gifts. I think just people are misled on how to tap into them or understand them, instead of going with the trends and just kind of like searching within themselves. And also shadow work is pretty important in that aspect. But all in all, I would definitely say, if you've never had a reading with Ethan, to definitely book one. You can just talk to him if you're unsure as well what kind of reading you'd want. He offers several different readings, so you can go on his website. I will be tagging him in this video, so you can go and give him a follow, and check out his website and see if it's something that you might be interested in. All right, thanks.